Hello everyone, this is Miss Berlin and welcome to Crack Physics Sessions. Today we are conducting Crack Physics Sessions to cover and to broaden the essential topics, if not the essential topic, at least to advance the lessons in the physics. And on this session, we will be learning the projectile motion. Again, projectile motion. Before we start, I have here images that you need to observe. What can you observe from these images? What can you notice? So we have, on the previous photo, we have the soccer, okay? And then on this one, we have a swimmer diving for a swim. And then we have a basketball player shooting for a three-point shot. I guess it's a three-point shot. And then we also have here a fireworks display. We have a fountain. Sa Luneta to. I think I captured this one. And then we also have here the cyclist. What do you call this? The one engaging in extraneous activity in motorcycles. Or is this cycles? Yeah. And we also have here the images of a rocket ascending and descending from a flight. So what can you observe from the images? Correct. They all create a parabolic path, or when we talk about parabolic path in your pre-cal, that is parabola, correct? So here are the parabolic path that is being observed on this photo. We also have this one. Okay, so from point A to point B. Then we also have the fountain parabolic path. So once the water has been shoot upward, it will fall back to the ground in terms of curves. We also have the fireworks display in parabolic path. And then, of course, did you know that actually sports science actually use parabolic equations to calculate accuracy of the three-point shots? And then we also have the diver. Same with this. Every sports science, every sport is being applied with projectile motion in particular. Example of this one. So, again, we are covering the projectile motion, and we define this as an object. Here, wait, let me use the pointer. An object moves along a curved path under the influence of gravity. So whether you throw, you kick an object upward or downward, it will create a parabolic path to denote that the x and y component, the x, which means the horizontal, and the y component, the vertical, is being simulated in this curved path. So when we talk about projectile motion, these are the motion that creates a curve or parabola motion. Of course, the only force acting on these objects, for example, you throw an object, is just the gravity. Let's try solving problems related to this projectile motion. I have here sample problem 1, which is read as a rock was thrown at an upward angle of 39 degrees off the horizontal from the very edge of a 100-meter cliff with an initial velocity of 6.2 meters per second. The questions are, how long is the rock in the air, and how far from the cliff will it land? As I mentioned last time, the scenario of projectile motion is you have to know how to identify the x and y components. So on this problem number 1, you are being asked to find how long is the rock in the air. So that means to say from the ground to the upward. Is that an x or y component? As you can see, this is vertical. So this is a y component. How about how far from the cliff will it land? So for example, you have here this is y, alright. You have here the cliff, and then you ask how far from the edge of this will it land. So this is an x component, correct? So let us visualize this problem. I-visualize natin yung problem through illustrations. So for example, ikaw to, nasa cliff ka, nakaupo ka, okay. Tapos, meron kang hawak na bato at hinagis mo yun at an angle of 39 degrees. No? 39 degrees. Yung speed ng paghagis mo ay 6.2 meters per second. Ayan. 6.2 meters per second. Yun ang iyong initial velocity. Ngayon, i-drawing natin ito ng mas maayos. We have here the cliff, tapos nakaupo ka, may hawak kang bato, hinagis mo siya at a speed of 6.2 meters per second. So, ito yung iyong initial velocity or V sub I. Ngayon, ang angle nun ay 39 degrees. So, we have to find the x component of the horizontal and then the y component of the vertical. So, walang value yung v sub y and v sub x. Wala pa siyang value. So, you have to use trigonometric function to solve these components. Now, yung problem number 1, you are being asked how long is the rock in the air. So, that is y component. And then, you are asked number 2, how far will the rock land from the edge of the cliff. So, ito yung cliff, yung pinakababa, yung pinaka-edge. Gaano daw kalayo mula dito maglaland yung rock? So, that is, number 2 is asking for the x component. Now, to solve that one, we have to find the x and y component. And in finding the x component, you only need to use the cosine. No, the cosine trigonometric function. So, the value of the angle is given in the problem, which is 39 degrees. So, to find the cosine that is adjacent over the hypotenuse. And if you will look here, where is that? This is your angle here. For example, this is your 39 degrees and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. How do you identify the adjacent? The adjacent is the horizontal next to the angle. So, ito yung angle. Ano yung horizontal niya? Yung v sub x, correct? Ito yan eh. So, we mean to say that the adjacent is v sub x. This one. V sub x. Tapos, yung ating hypotenuse, may value tayo, di bang nilagay? 6.2. Ito yan, yung longer leg ng triangle natin, which is initial velocity equivalent to 6.2 meters per second. So, ilalagay mo lang yan dito, 6.2. Ganun lang. And then, ang kailangan natin ay value ng x component or v sub x. Kung makikita natin yung equation, the equation does not solve for v sub x. So, we have to eliminate the 6.2 at the denominator we are currently deriving. So, to eliminate this one, we have to divide both sides by 6.2. Right? I mean, we have to multiply by 6.2. So, the dot here represents the multiplication process. Numerator, denominator, you will be able to cancel the 6.2. And whatever operation you perform here should also be performed here. So you multiply 6.2 here as well. And after that, you will have to rearrange the equation. You will have 6.2 times cosine 39 equals the numerator of v sub x. And then, sa calculator nyo na to, multiply ka, 6.2 times cosine 39 ay 4.82 meters per second. Ito yung component ng v sub x. So, susulat ko lang dito yung value niya ay 4.82 meters per second for the v sub x. And then, we also need to find the value of the velocity at the y component. But then, in finding the y component lagi, you have to use the sine trigonometric function along with the given angle. So, sine multiplied to 39 angle is equivalent to the opposite over hypotenuse. Constant yun na, so katowa. So, on this note, you will have the opposite over the hypotenuse. Then, how do you identify the opposite and the hypotenuse? So, you have here, when we talk about opposite, kung ito yung degree, di ba ito yung degree, 39, yung theta na yan, yung opposite niyan, yon yung v sub y. So, opposite is equivalent to v sub y, tapos yung hypotenuse natin ay 6.2 meters per second. So, ito yon. Ayan, yung opposite natin ay v sub y, tapos yung hypotenuse natin ay 6.2. Ngayon, ang kailangan lang natin ay equation ng v sub y. So, you have to multiply both sides by the denominator to eliminate that. Multiplying both sides, you will be able to cancel numerator, denominator, and then multiply here as well. You are left with the final equation of 6.2 multiplied to sine 39 is equivalent to the value of v sub y. So, kapag multiply mo ito sa calculator mo, you will have 3.9 meters per second. This is your component y. Sulat ko lang dito, no? Ang value ng y natin ay, ilan daw? 3.9. Sulat ko lang. Equals 3.9 meters per second. Afterwards, you have to find the time na how long. Kasi nahanap mo na yung x and y eh. But the problem is, hindi pa natin nakikita yung gaano katagal yung rock dun sa air, no? So, to solve that, you will be using this equation. The equation for the projectile motion, which is d equals, or distance, is equals to initial velocity multiplied to time. V sub I is initial velocity multiplied to time plus 0.5 multiplied to acceleration due to gravity multiplied to time raised to 2. Okay? But then, ang kailangan natin again ay equation for time. And this one is an equation for distance. So, hindi ito pwede. Kailangan mo pa siyang i-derive. To derive this one, you need to transpose. Kasi ito yung plus, di ba? You need to transpose this on the other side of equation. Ilipat mo lang. At kapag nilipat mo siya, siya ay magiging negative. So, d minus 0.5 h squared is equals to yung naiwan, VIT or initial velocity multiplied to time. Again, ang kailangan lang natin ay ang kailangan lang natin ay equation ng time. May presence pa ng initial velocity. So, you have to cancel that. To cancel that, you have to perform an operation opposite that. So, ang operation nito ay multiplication. So, para ma-eliminate mo siya, you have to multiply. You have to divide. Yung opposite ng multiplication ay division. So, divide both sides by initial velocity. Makakancel to, and then you are finally left with the equation for time, which is, ang equation natin for time, t equals the displacement minus 0.5 h squared over the initial velocity. After nun, you have to identify, ito na equation na gagamitin mo ha. Wait, ito na equation na gagamitin to solve number 1 problem, which is how long is the rock in the air. Ganon. So, identify the given. Ang given natin ay distance. Ito yung height we are pertaining to the y component kasi we are pertaining to the height. No, yung height, gaano katagal yung rock sa taas. So, everything na isa-substitute mo dun sa problem should be related to the y component. So, you will have the distance. Yung cliff natin, 100 meter yung taas nun. Okay? So, ito yon y component siya, no? Kasi taas eh. And then, yung acceleration natin, kasi nagis yung bato, so, yung acceleration due to gravity natin ay vertical din. And that is equivalent to, kapag hinagis mo, anong value ng acceleration due to gravity? Negative. So, ang value natin ay negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Then, afterwards, yung value ng initial velocity natin sa y component pa rin. Balikan natin to. Ang initial velocity natin sa y component ay ito, 3.9 meters per second. So, babalik tayo. Yung given natin ng initial velocity at y component ay 3.9 meters per second. So, lahat ng associated values for substitution dapat related sa y component. Yung d yung height, yung a yung falling acceleration ng object, tapos initial velocity yung sa y component din. So, everything should be related to the y component. And then, hinahanap natin yung time. Now, to solve for this one, you just need to substitute the values in the derived equation. T equals, yung value ng D ay 100 meters minus 0.5. Yung value ng A natin ay negative 9.8 meters per second squared. At yung value ng T natin ay 0. So, every number multiplied to 0 minus lahat of product, cancel. 0 yan. Any number multiplied to 0 is 0. And then you are left with 100 meters divided by 3.9 meters per second, yung initial velocity natin. So, dividing that, you will have 100 divided by 3.9, you will have 25.6. Tapos, 25.64 rather. Pwede rin 25.6, okay lang naman. And then, unit natin, numerator, denominator, cancel, 1 minus 1, exponent nila, 0. And then, you are left with the second unit. After nun, hindi pa tapos yun. Kung makikita mo kasi, ang highest degree sa equation na to ay 2. Naka-raise to 2. So, that means to say, you have to get the square root of this magnitude. At ang square root ng 25.64 ay 5.06 seconds. So, therefore, ang sagot sa number 1 ay 5.0 seconds ang tinagal ng rock on the air. Okay? After nun, Yung next naman na problem natin, yung number 2 problem natin talks about, ano yung number 2? How far from the cliff will it land? Gaano daw kalayo mula dun sa cliff? So, to solve this one, you will be using the projectile motion equation pero on x component naman. Kanina tinan nyo, yung equation natin, nasa na ba yun? Yung original na derivation. Diba? Same lang naman sila ng equation, pero nag-focus kasi tayo sa y components lahat kasi mid-air so vertical yon. Pero dito sa x component, tingnan ninyo, saan na ba yun? Here, this one. Ang tinatanong na kasi kung ito yung cliff, gaano kalayo mula sa edge ng bangin nahulog yung bato. So, that is a horizontal or x component aspect. And on that note, you have to use this equation. D sub x, since far naman ang tinatanong distance, hindi mo na kailangang mag-derive. Equals initial velocity multiplied to time plus 0.580 squared. And then identify the given, yung initial velocity natin at x component at x component. Yung component ito yun, 4.82 meters per second, no? So, here we will have the value of initial velocity which is 4.82 meters per second. Yung acceleration sa horizontal, 0. Hindi siya given. Tapos yung t natin ay yung previous calculation natin here na 5.06 seconds. And then, hinahanap natin yung distance horizontally. Then, afterwards, the thing that you need to do is substitution. Value ng initial velocity natin ay 4.82 meters per second. Ito siya. Yung value ng time natin ay 5.06 plus 0.5 and then yung value ng acceleration ay 0 and then value ng time 5.06 seconds raised to 2. So, makakancel tong part na to kasi product yan multiplication. So, cancel yan. You are left with this one. 4.82 times 5.06 you have 24 and then yung unit natin, denominator, numerator, you are left with the meter unit. So, the distance of the rock from the edge of the cliff is 24 meters. So, yun yung sagot sa number 2. Okay? So, again, babalik tayo dito sa problem to summarize. Number 1, anong sagot natin sa number 1? 5.06 seconds. Sa number 2, anong sagot natin? 24 meters. Okay? How about the sample problem number 2? Let me read the problem here. You have the problem of a ball is thrown at an angle of 20 degrees off the horizontal with an initial velocity of 2.1 meters per second. What is the maximum height the ball will reach? So, tinatanong tayo ng maximum height. Vertical yon. Vertical yan. Wala siyang question na related sa horizontal. So, let us illustrate the problem. Nandito kayo sa cliff. Ito yon. Nagbato ka ng bato. Anong speed ng bato mo? 2.1 meters per second. 2.1 meters per second. Ito yung iyong initial velocity. Tapos, after nun, na mayroon siyang angle na 20 degrees. Hanapin natin yung v sub x at v sub y. Pero kahit di mo na ito hanapin kasi ang tanong lang naman maximum height. So, focus ka na lang sa y component. Huwag mo na ito hanapin. Ito ka na lang v sub y. Anong trigonometric function gagamitin natin kapag hinahanap natin ang y component? Ano? Yes, sine. So, balik tayo dito. Sine. Tapos yung given degree na 20 degrees. Then opposite over hypotenuse. So, balik tayo sa drawing natin. So, ito yung degree natin, yung opposite niyan ay v sub y at ang hypotenuse natin ay ito, initial velocity. So, on this problem, you will have v sub y, tapos hypotenuse sa 2.1, eliminate 2.1 by multiplying both sides of the equation at 2.1, numerator, denominator, cancel. You are left with the equation for v sub y. So, 2.1 times sine times 20 degrees is equals to the value of the v sub y, which is 0.72 meters per second. Ito yung sagot ninyo na y component. Now, tinatanong tayo ng height. So, kung makikita natin yung problem natin, independent siya ng time. Walang presence ng time. So, you have to use equation na madali na. Kasi kung gagamitin mo yung equation natin kanina na d equals vit plus 0.580 squared, may mga variable ng time. So, matagal siya bago mo ma-derive. Okay? So, to ease the burden or to make the process efficient, you have to use an equation that is independent of time. And on that note, we will be using this equation from the derivation. Final velocity squared equals initial velocity squared plus 2 times acceleration due to gravity multiplied to the distance. Now, the thing that we need to do is derive the equation. This one, we have to derive this because this is an equation of final velocity. And we need an equation to measure the height, the maximum height, in terms of distance. Distance pa rin yung height kasi that is from point A to the point B, right? So, to derive the equation, you have to transfer this initial velocity to the other side because uh, so that we can isolate the quantity that has a distance variable. So, lipat mo lang to. You will have an opposite sign for that. From positive, it will become negative. Vf squared minus initial velocity squared. So, kung makikita mo ito ay, it mirrors the rate of acceleration na equation. Equals to times acceleration due to gravity and then the distance. Then, ang kailangan lang natin nga ay distance. So, kailangan ma-eliminate natin yung 2a. To eliminate the 2a, you have to divide both sides by 2a of the equation. 2a cancel, 2a cancel, and then divide by 2a here. You finally have the equation of, naiwan si D na ha, D equals Vf squared minus Vf, Vi squared raised to 2a. Ito na yung final equation natin na gagamitin to solve the problem. Next is identify the given values. Yung final velocity natin ay hindi given, 0. Yung initial velocity natin ay 0.72 meters per second. Galing siya dito sa solving natin ng y component. Ito siya, this one. And then the next is acceleration. Whenever you throw an object upward, the 9.8 will become negative. So constant yan, 9.8 meters per second squared, negative. And the next is substitution. Substitute mo lang yung mga given values on this equation. You will have 0 for the Vf squared kasi wala siyang value, minus 0.72 meters per second squared. Whenever pwede mo ipasok to sa parentheses, magiging positive din naman yan. But then, 0.72 and then 2 times the acceleration due to gravity na 9.8, negative yon. And then, 0.72 raised to 2 ay 0.52. So, whenever you raise a quantity, hindi lang yung number yung i-raise mo sa 2, pati yung unit. M raised to 2 is M squared, S raised to 2 is S squared. Over 2 times negative 9.8 is negative 19.6 meters per second. The next thing that you need to do is what? You need to divide 0.52 divided by negative 19.6. Ang sagot natin ay negative 0.0265. And then cancel yung seconds. 9.8 meters per second squared yan na acceleration pala to. Nakalimutan ko lagyan ng 2. So, magiging 2 rin to. 2 minus 2, 0, cancel. And then 2 minus 1, meter na lang. Okay? And then after nun, lagi natin tatandaan na pag kinukuha natin yung distance, diba, sinabi ko na to before, laging naka-absolute value si distance. Okay? So, pwedeng 0.265 meters na yung sagot ninyo or you can use 0.023, round off ka na agad. Ay, round up. Positive kasi laging absolute value ang distance. And then, pwede naman para magmukhang matalino ka, o scientific notation mo, you will have 2.3 times 10 papunta doon negative raised to negative 2 meters. This is your answer for the sample problem number 2. And that is all. Goodbye and good luck and see you on the next Crack Physics sessions.